Hello BookTube, welcome back to my 2026 library tour. Today I'm going to start with the poet Justin Chin. Justin Chin, his oeuvre was mostly in the 1990s and a little bit into the 2000s, which is when I became particularly enamored of his work. I, at the time, collected a number of his collections, including Bite Hard, and then I stupidly got rid of all of them and kicked myself in the keister for that. And I eventually, a few years ago, finally tracked down a copy of Bite Hard, although I have not yet managed to do the same for the rest of his work, which I wish I could, because I really want to have more of Justin Chin's work in my collection. He is a fantastic poet, and this is a really fantastic collection. It's been a while since I last read it, though. Tales of Tangier, the complete short stories of Mohammed Shukri, translated from the Arabic by Roger Allen. Oh no, that's the foreword. It's by Roger Allen. Translated from the Arabic by Jonas Albusti. So this is a collection of Shukri's short fiction. It's from the Margellus World Republic of Letters series from Yale University Press, and I recently picked it up. The next two are by Bora Chung. First up is Cursed Bunny, translated from the Korean by Anton Her. This novel, or this short story collection, was longlisted, at least, possibly shortlisted for the Booker International back in 2022 or 2023, the year that Tomb of Sand won. And was also a finalist for the National Book Award a few years later, because this book came out, I think, a little bit later in the U.S. than it did in the U.K. But before I picked up Cursed Bunny, I picked up a later short story collection, Your Utopia, also translated from the Korean by Anton Her. This one has not had as much, at least prize love, as Cursed Bunny did. And I think I picked this one up first because Powell's had a used book sale on, and that one was used, and Cursed Bunny was not. The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. Have not gotten around to it yet. I just recently added it to my collection. Eventime Bleeds. Selected poems by Jeanette L. Clarion, translated from the Spanish, and introduced by Forrest Gander. So this is a selected collection of Clarion's work. She's a rather prominent Mexican poet, and this is from Princeton University Press as part of the Lockhart Library of Poetry and Translation. So this is the most recent one, and we'll have the Spanish on the even numbered pages and the English translation on the odd numbered pages. The Life and Times of Michael Kay by J.M. Coetzee. This is a winner of the Booker Prize from 1983, which is the year of my birth and why I picked it up a few years ago. So a few years ago, Criminale had a booktube event in which participants would read works published in the year of their birth. And I selected a number of works, including The Life and Times of Michael Kay, and I have some unfinished business with this novel. The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. This is an early detective novel, and it is fantastic. It's been a very long time since I last read it, though. And I've had this particular copy in my collection for a very long time. About 20 years or so, I think. Taking to Water by Jennifer Conlon. This is a collection of poetry published by Autumn House Press. At the time I picked it up, Autumn House was distributed by the University of Chicago Press, although I don't think Autumn House is still distributed. So I'm not entirely sure where you can find Autumn House books, whether poetry or fiction, because they do also publish fiction. I also need to give this book collection another look, because when I read it the first time I didn't particularly get on with it. More poetry with a little more written on the human by Gillian Conley. This is a new and selected collection of Conley's work, which it seems every other time I read this collection I either really enjoy it or have some unfinished business with it. My last reread was more on the positive side, though. So I really like how Conley approached making a new and selected collection with this one. The next two are by Jonathan Coe, Mr. Wilder and Me. I just recently picked this up. And I also just recently picked up another book by him. The Proof of My Innocence. And now we have a batch of Dennis Cooper, who is an American author whose work is very visceral, very kinky. So first up is, I think, his debut, Closer, which is the first of the George Miles novel, in which a young man, the narrator in real life, Dennis Cooper, had a thing for. It's been a very long time since I've read this book. Very long time since I read it. Probably overdue for a reread. More recently, I did finish Frisk by Dennis Cooper after some unfinished business with this novel. It's about an author who is probably a stand-in for Dennis Cooper, who has a relationship with a young man, and they drift apart over time. And so the narrator has sent a letter to his former lover confessing to having become a serial killer. And also letters to other people that the narrator has had encounters with. And he also has a kind of a horror novel written in here as well. So it's a fairly complicated book. But when I finally did read it last year, I actually rather enjoyed it. Wrong So this is a short story collection that it's been a very long time since I've read it. This was my first Dennis Cooper work, and I probably have not read it in over 20 years. And we have The Sluts by Dennis Cooper. So this is a novel about a young man who is a male prostitute who has an entire life constructed by the men who rate him on a kind of a gay hustler website, and it's pretty wild. I picked that up when I was in San Francisco, and I recently reread it last year. So next is A Home at the End of the World by Michael Cunningham. This is his debut novel. It's about two friends who come to live together, with the gay friend's best friend, who becomes the lover of the childhood friend, and plot ensues. It's really good. It's been 20 odd years since I read it. Like with a lot of my collection, I had gotten rid of that particular copy and kicked myself in the keister for it, and recently, a few years ago, added this copy to my collection. Which is the same story with The Hours, also by Michael Cunningham. This one won the Pulitzer Prize in 1999 or 2000. It's a take on Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, and it is a brilliant novel. So this was my first novel by Michael Cunningham, although not this edition. I'm rather pissed off that I have this edition. I would have rather had the original cover, which is the one that I had at first, and that I stupidly got rid of. But this will do. Okay, moving on. Mass for Shut-ins by Mary Alice Daniel. Well, this is a poetry collection that is pretty good. It's from the Yale Younger Poet series. Yale every year publishes one collection from a younger poet, and this came out a few years ago. The Remembered Soldier by Anya Danye, translated from the Dutch by David McKay. This is a just recently translated novel. It was longlisted for this year's Booker International Prize, was a finalist for last year's National Book Award in Translated Literature, and I've been looking forward to reading it for quite a while now. No One Will Know You Tomorrow by Najwan Darwish, selected poems 2014 to 2024, translated from the Arabic by Karim James Abu Zaid. So this is a collection of Najwan Darwish's poetry. It is from the Margiela's World Republic of Letters. They do both poetry and fiction, and they don't do a dual language, although I think the most recent one they might have done a dual language one. I need to check on that. But this is a pretty good collection. I rather enjoyed it when I read it. Dear Vulcan by Laura Davenport. This is from LSU. Really good collection. So the next two books are by Michelle DeCrester. First up is The Life to Come. It won the Miles Franklin Literary Award in 2018, and I'm planning on reading it sometime later this month, which is why there's a bookmark here. Ordinarily, what I do is with my monthly reading plan, I will pull the books off the shelves and put them on a table, and will then put them up once I've read them and talked about them on weekly reads. But since I'm in the process of doing a library tour, I've gone ahead and just bookmarked all of the books and put them back on the shelves. I have read DeCrester's most recent book, Theory and Practice, which won the Stella Prize last year. And this is a brilliant book. It is set in the 1980s, and it's about a student who both struggles with personal drama as well as trying to figure out what to do when she discovers that Virginia Woolf was a racist. Next is Wonderland by Stacey D'Erasmo. This is a novel about a woman who is trying to restart her music career. It's pretty good. Took me some time to get into it, and then I got rid of that copy and have regretted it, so I picked up this new copy from Powell's a few months ago, or a few weeks ago. Next is The Inheritance of Lost by Karen Desai. This won the Booker Prize in 2006 and also the National Book Critics Circle Award. So I have not gotten around to it yet. I just recently picked this up. My Name is Leon by Kit Duvall was a finalist for the Costa First Novel Award. And I think it was up for a few other awards as well. Just recently added this to my collection. Bleak House by Charles Dickens. This is the only Dickens I have at the moment. I first read it back in 2006 and rather enjoyed it, although my subsequent attempt to reread it did not pan out as well as I would have hoped. But I will give it another shot. The next batch is poetry. So first up is the Dickman Brothers. First up, All-American Poem by Matthew Dickman. This is his debut poetry collection. It won the APR Honigman First Book Prize. And the title poem, All-American Poem, is brilliant. Would like to have more of Dickman's work, both of them. And this is his twin brother Michael's debut collection, The End of the West, which is also pretty good. And then there is Mark Doughty did not want to wait. Wonderama by Catherine Doughty. As far as I know, of no relation to Mark Doughty. This is a collection that I picked up a few years ago. It's from Kevin Carey Press, distributed through the University of Chicago Press. I'm pretty sure, I think I did not pick this up from the University of Chicago Press itself. I think I picked it up from someone else. But it's an okay collection. It's been a while since I last read it, though. Sorry about the interruption. So next is Source by Mark Dottie. I first picked up this collection back in the 2000s and really enjoyed it, and then stupidly got rid of it and have regretted it ever since. I just recently, a few years ago, added it back into my collection and reread it and enjoyed it. Before I re-added Source to my collection, though, I added Fire to Fire, new and selected poems by Mark Dottie to my collection. This won the National Book Award in Poetry some years ago, and it is a really good collection. I really enjoyed reading it. Back to the Victorians with The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. I picked this up a few months ago for the February BookTube event, Holmes is Where the Heart Is. And I decided to reread The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I once had the complete Sherlock Holmes in my collection, but I got rid of it. And I decided that instead of going for the whole collection, that I would do it piecemeal to see if I did want to add all of Sherlock Holmes back to my library. I'm not entirely sure if I will or not. I did not particularly enjoy my long overdue reread of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. To be honest, right now I'm not overly enthusiastic about detective fiction. So the last two books on this shelf are French. First is The Iron King by Maurice Drouin. This is a historical novel about the end of the first part of the Capetian dynasty. So from the 10th century through to really 1848, with about a 20-year interruption for the French Revolution and Napoleon, France was ruled by the Capetian dynasty. So from the establishment of the dynasty to 1320 something, the succession was father to son until the very end, where it was father to son and then a string of brothers who did not have legitimate children. And that's stories where this novel focuses on. Eventually, the crown went to a relative who were the Valois, and then when they fell or died out, it then went to the Bourbon branch. Have not gotten around to this yet, and apparently this novel was an inspiration for George R.R. Martin. And so the last book on this shelf is The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, translated from the French by Lowell Bayer. And I really should say who the translator of this novel is. Humphrey Hare. So Humphrey Hare translated The Iron King, and Lowell Bayer translated The Three Musketeers, which is a classic of French adventure literature, although I have not read it yet. Nor have I read The Iron King. I have a weird thing about historical fiction. I have not really gotten into it for its own sake yet. I'd much rather, or have traditionally much rather, read the history rather than historical fiction. But that may change. We shall see. Anyway, BookTube, I'm going to go ahead and upload this, so I will see you with the next shelf tomorrow. So look forward to that, and until then, thank you and have a great morning.